Would you apply for medicine? I think that says it all, guys. Welcome back. Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, I'm Anusha. I'm currently in my first year of medicine at King's College London. Should probably try that again. Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, I'm Anusha. I'm currently in my first year of medicine at King's College London. Now, a lot of you have been asking about what I wish I knew before applying to medical school, so I thought I'd grab a few of my course mates' ideas as well as mine and put together a little video for you guys. Way to state the obvious, Anusha. Perks of not filming in front of the camera for 4 days, but we move. Anyways, disclaimer, of course the experience is going to be different for every person, whether or not you're applying while you're sitting in an exam or after you've done a degree or while you're on a gap year. But I'm hoping there's something useful for you guys to take away, whether or not you're considering applying to medicine or you've already passed the L and now you're watching this video anyways. It's not an L. It's not an L. An L that you're probably glad you really took anyways. Right, waffle and unnecessary explanation over. Let's get to it. One thing that we all wish we knew before applying for medical school is that league tables are so subjective. League tables are weighed differently depending on the person. But one thing to bear in mind is that although medicine, like a lot of other degrees, is difficult, you're going to be in uni for a long time. If rankings is something that's important to you, then that's a factor to consider. But you've also got to consider whether or not you're going to enjoy studying at the uni. League tables-based ranking offers so many things, such as student satisfaction, as well as education. But honestly, the best thing to do is just go to an open day and see if the uni is high in your rankings. That might be something that's quite obvious to a lot of people, but when you're applying for medicine, you can get caught up in the heat of the moment, and the quick and easiest thing to do would be to look at the league table sometimes. And I know for this year's students it's a bit different because you guys haven't been able to necessarily go to the open days or see the uni for yourself. I mean, I haven't been on campus for ages. I'm sure if you ask someone in the older years, they'd be happy to answer any of your questions. And there are so many online resources that you can use. The best bet is to just see the uni for yourself and picture yourself studying there. Next thing, hearing back at different times. I wish someone told me about this before I applied. One thing to bear in mind, every medicine application is different and the process is different for everybody. So there's no way you can compare your process to someone else's. That includes when you hear back whether or not you've got an interview. I remember doing my interviews. There were people that were having interviews after me that were hearing back within 2 weeks of their interview. The one thing that reassured me is that everyone in my batch, so everyone who had the interview on the same day as me, no one had heard back. I don't know if that's something that you should necessarily use to reassure you, but I did. So the one phrase that I would say in this situation is no news is good news. Until you've heard back with a definitive decision, there is absolutely no need to worry or jump to conclusions, and I know that was not the case for me. But honestly, the wait is worth it. It's always worth it. If you get called to interview, congratulations, well done. But a lot of the time, people just tend to panic because essentially you're one step closer to getting your offer. So why would you be nervous? I'll tell you why. It depends on the university, but most of the time you get a couple of weeks notice before your interview and your brain just goes into panic mode. And for a lot of people, it's a case of, oh my gosh, I have to know everything, I have to know everything, I have to know everything. You don't. One thing I will say is that the more you know, the better it is for you sometimes. But they don't want someone who knows everything. That's not the point. They're calling you to interview. They just want to see how you can use the knowledge that you do know. Now, I'm not saying go waffle. That's totally not what I did. But just keep calm and enjoy the interview. You made it. You made it to interview. Honestly, the more you enjoy your interview, the more likely you're to do well in it. And it's a chance for them to really get to know you. So what do you have to lose? Another thing is that when you're applying for medicine, make sure you really enjoy the subjects you're taking for A-level. Most unis only require you to take one A-level max, if any. So, of course, make sure that to an extent you enjoy that subject. But if you're taking a subject for A-level and you think, yeah, this is the last time I'm going to see it, don't bet on it. Some of you may or may not know, I took biology and chemistry for A-levels, but I also took maths and AS further maths. And I may or may not have thought I'm never going to have to see some of this again. I also didn't think I would have to do this many essays. Medicine never fails to surprise you, which is one thing I love about it. My point being is that it's important for you to enjoy A-level subjects to an extent because they're so important, especially in your preclinical years. I'm not saying you got to know the Krebs cycle inside and out. I still don't. But enjoy and appreciate your A-level subjects enough because you're essentially going to be using them for the rest of your career in some way, shape or form. We love to see it. Now, the next point doesn't really apply to me, but a lot of my course mates have said not to prioritise your entrance exam prep over your mocks. Totally not because I did the opposite. Anyways, this point can be taken both ways, and it mainly applies for people that are applying for medicine while sitting an exam. So the equivalent of the IB or A levels. And I'm not saying entrance exams aren't important. They are an aspect that you need to look at when deciding whether or not they want to take you on their course, but they're not the only thing that they look at. And to be honest, I don't really like talking about grades much or their impact because it can be so subjective for people. But of course, some people like going on about them more than others. But in the case of medicine, you do need certain requirements depending on the university that you apply for. So your mocks are important in deciding what grades you get and what grades you can apply with. There's plenty of ways to balance both, so you're not sacrificing one for the other, and you get the best of both worlds. There are a lot of different entrance exams depending on what stage you apply. I've got more of that on a separate video, which is linked below if you want to check it out. Try not to prioritize one over the other. The next point I'm going to make is that you do not need to have the highest entrance exam score to apply for medicine. Of course, the higher the score, the more reassurance it will give you and potentially an advantage in terms of when you're applying, but it does not determine whether or not you get a place. That's why it's so important to balance out the rest of your application to give yourself the best chance at work experience. The main thing I have to say about this is quality, not quantity. But let me elaborate on that. Work experience is really important because it displays the soft skills that you want to show in an application but might be difficult to put on paper. But it doesn't need to be the highest end type of work experience out there. If working in a hospital is something that intrigues you, then having a week of shadowing in a hospital might be great for you to be able to get some more exposure. But it's not necessary for a medical school application. Overall, universities tend to value volunteering over shadowing because it gives you more of a chance to use the skill sets that you have. And understandably, this year it's more difficult to get work experience clinically based because of the pandemic that's going on. But there are so many other ways for you to get involved and get some volunteering done. It's really important to have some of that done before you send off your application for medical school so that you have something to talk about at interview. They would much rather know about what you've learned rather than what you did. And the final point I want to make is that when applying to medical school, to understand what it is that you're really getting into. And I'm not trying to put off anyone by this, but there are some things you might want to keep in mind. The amount of content that there is insane. Of course, many people know that medicine is a heavily content-based course. Where do I begin? So being aware of that is important. The complexity of anatomy is also something else. You never really stop learning with medicine as you go along, even in your higher clinical years. So if you feel like that's something you'll enjoy, then go for it. Apply for medicine. But if you're someone who likes to learn in a certain time frame, then perhaps medicine might not be a course that you would enjoy. The opinion is different for everyone, but I think universally we can say that medicine is a very heavily content-based course. So yeah, hopefully that's given you guys some insight into some of the things that we've encountered during our journey to medical school. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that every application and every journey is different. What my course mates and I have experienced might not be what you guys experience, and that's completely fine, but hopefully you've gained some tips along the way. If you did find this video useful, please make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content. And if you have any more questions, feel free to leave a question in the comments below, or you can message me on my Instagram, which is at mygktmonologues. So yeah, that's everything left to say from this waffler for now. Stay tuned.